Welcome to another episode of The Velvet Hammer.
And here we go.
Well, let's talk about...
Our last episode was too spicy. We can't even air it. We were just totally spicy, and Mike said we can't air it. It was too controversial. We would have made too many enemies. So today we're going to talk about a much more placid subject.
Yes. I woke up in the morning and I was like, we said a little too much on that last one.
I would have been fine with it, but whatever.
Okay.
All right, part 2 of money.
Yeah.
So we got through part 1, and I outed you on the fact that you're very uncomfortable with money. So you've been doing some personal journey.
Yeah. I mean, I have a coach, and I work with my coach on professional, personal development, and the topic of money has come up. And what I have learned is that money is a source of trauma for me, and that's a challenge when you are working as a plaintiff's lawyer, and part of your goal is to get money for your client.
Are you comfortable sharing with us an example? What do you mean money is a source of trauma for you?
One, I've been financially taken advantage of multiple times as a young person, and we didn't have money. So for me, when I was going to get money or go earn money, it was something that I created a value system around that had to do with escaping the reality of my house, that money was the solution, that resource was a solution to reduce suffering.
So your house was a source of abuse for you.
Abuse, but also poverty.
Okay, and you wanted to get out of your house.
Yeah, so...
And you saw money as being a route to escape.
Right.
And you got money.
And I did, immediately.
As a how old person?
18, 19 years old, I was making, thousands of dollars a month.
And you did this through?
Working in real estate, working with a group of people who were involved in real estate, and doing very good at it.
And then you found out?
I found out that they were taking advantage of me.
What does that mean?
They were misusing my name and for, just inappropriate purposes, and...
well, we don't want you to go to jail or them to go to jail, so... But was it like fraud level kind of stuff?
No, it wasn't fraud level. It was just what I would call misdealings, not acting in good faith. And what ended up happening was that, my mom realized, and she confronted an individual and said, you need to fix this problem, and then told me to, and I left the job. And then the second time was I owned a business when I was in my early 20s, a very successful clothing business up in New York City on the Upper East Side. And I'd purchased a business from a friend. And when I purchased it, I was told that the business was worth
X amount. And then what I learned afterwards was that the amount was misrepresented. The inventory was overvalued, and there was inventory missing. And I hadn't even gotten my own lawyer. I made the deal with him, with a lawyer that he selected. And what I felt, I mean, he was much older than I felt that I was being mentored, and that he was, he would invite me over to his home. I would have dinner with his family. I didn't have anybody in New York. It was a very challenging time for me, so I felt as though I was part of the family. And I recall a conversation I had with him when I confronted him about this, and I naively, but it's how I felt. I said, well, I thought I was part of your family. And he was like, you're not. And I remember hearing that, and I remember feeling terrible. Yeah.
Those instances kind of taught me that money has a tendency to do things to people. And so...
Money is the root of all evil?
I guess it's the root of all evil, but it brings out the worst in people sometimes. Mm-hmm. And so my relationship with money, at that point was...
But it wasn't just that it was bad, that there was, it was that you felt that money in your case amounted to betrayal and loss of safety.
Loss of safety, betrayal. I guess, I don't know, Mike. Oh, wise sage Mike. I'm a sensitive guy. I want people to know that I'm a good, kind person and value me for that. And somehow money ended up confusing all that.
Yeah. You said something in there too where you felt like you were part of his family. And I think, I had that a lot when I was first breaking out into the music industry and working with bands, where you start to feel like you're part of a team. And it sounds like in that situation, you quickly realized that you weren't part. Well, he said you're not part. And was he using that as an excuse for, not being truthful?
Maybe. I kind of took it as hey, there is a personal relationship and then there's a business relationship. And those two things don't overlap. And I think you're confused, Mo. Wake up. It was that kind of reality check for me. And whereas I think that I blurred the lines. And I just had the tendency to my whole life.
And I think that's easy for someone who wants to be. I think, when you have trauma early on, you gravitate towards people that you feel are, like I said, making you part of the team. And when you're faced with the fact that they don't consider it that way, and you've been sort of, in the instance of money, then there's this extra factor that's laid into it. It's not just that you're not part of the family, it's that you don't deserve to be treated fairly.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
That's a good part.
That's a good part. I think that what that did, those events culminated into my decision to follow what I believe to be my moral compass and not have money be part of that component. And so I went and represented poor people.
Yeah.
So what did Sherry do? Oops. What did your coach do?
What did my coach do?
What did your coach do?
Well, my coach was like, well, what were you doing when you're representing poor people? What are you doing? I was like, I was pursuing justice. I was trying to bring them peace. And then she said, well, are you doing the same thing now? And what are you trying to do when you're trying to pursue money for your clients? I said, I'm trying to help them find justice, help them find peace. And then she said, well, then why don't you pursue that for yourself? And then I was floored. I kind of sat there silent. I was like, because I don't think I deserve it. And kind of have been pursuing it my entire life for other people because I don't think I deserve those things. I've never lived with peace. I don't know what that means for me.
So, this is deep. It's deep.
Well, you asked.
It is deep. However, where this came from was that our job is very limited by our system of justice.
Yes.
We can't get peace, quote unquote, or justice unless it's in the form of money in a civil arena. And so the money has to represent justice and peace.
Yes.
Right? So it's representative. And you are still not quite comfortable with that.
No. And that's my challenge. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I just think that it's something I'm going to work on.
I don't even think that it's something that's unique to you. I mean, even though your experience is very unique, what I see as a trial lawyer is that people's perceptions about money and trial lawyer and plaintiff cases is typically pretty negative until they understand, like, this is not something gross. This is something that our predecessors who decided to create this country felt that we could have the best civil justice system in the world, which I believe that we do, even though it's flawed, and that this is how it was going to work. And so in trying to fulfill that, the destiny of that vision of having this, basically it allows the people that have nothing to sue the people that have something. And the only way that you can get accountability a lot of time is to make the people that have something give some of it up. That makes a point, especially to a corporation, which has no feelings of remorse. The only thing it cares about is its bottom line. So I completely accept that, but many people that are on the jury don't. And I think we talked about this before. They'll say, well, you know, a life is worth nothing because it's priceless. That doesn't mean it's worth nothing, though. That means that no one would want to give up their life for a money figure, but that doesn't mean it's worthless. It means the opposite. It means it's about the most precious thing that there is life.
I think that resonates with me. I think that what values does money inspire when you're talking about it in the context of someone's catastrophic loss? Okay, I can think of it in that light. I think where I'm having a challenge is that what has made me excel as a lawyer and be very excellent at what I do is not to have money be part of the component that drives me to find justice for people, find peace for people. And what I learned with my coach was that I am capping myself by not being receptive to how money can enhance my ability to pursue justice and peace for people. That's the challenge. And I have to confront the fact that it's my problems with money that's stopping that. It has nothing to do with money as an external factor. Money is just a commodity. It's just a resource.
So there's kind of two issues. You know, we started off talking about money because I'm interested in, I mean, that is the only thing that I can achieve is money justice.
Yes.
In a capitalist society.
Yeah, that's the problem with it, is that money from the beginning of time is the representation of...
Limited.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, a lot of times they want you to sign off saying, we accept no responsibility for this. Here's
some money.
Here's $1 million.
Yeah.
But we're not responsible.
Which is my least favorite.
I mean, I think that's a problem. And here's the problem. I mean, I can only draw from experience that I'm familiar with is that I've had to bring into court men often facing with what I call disproportionate sentences to go to prison for things that they have done, with their families sitting in a courtroom, and they're draped in orange suits, about to go away into a box for many, many years, and they are told, do you accept responsibility for what you do? And they sit there in front of everyone, somewhat humiliated, acknowledging all the wrongs they've done, having the other side tell them everything they've done their entire life that's wrong, talking about their criminal history, all of that. And then they sit there and fumble through an expression of remorse. It's the most humiliating thing I witnessed day in and day out. And yet, you can come into the civil system and cut a check and not do that.
Even worse, you can admit that you did it in an attempt to not have to cut that check.
Yeah.
That's the tough one.
That's even worse. So, like, what drives me to want to go to trial against a corporation is dragging those witnesses through an examination that makes them feel what my clients felt in those courtrooms. That's what drives me. But unfortunately, that may not be in the best interests of what the values of our civil system are, which is cash. That's what I got to work through. because I have to make decisions that say,
Yeah, but here's what I think.
okay,
I think that the burning desire, which we just, we had to mitigate that burning desire because we settled the case.
yes,
But the burning desire we had to do that,
Yes.
to go public, which drove us, that was realized by the defense.
Yeah, and that's what scares them.
When they know that that's what you want to do more than anything else, and your client is along with that, the client wants that accountability.
yeah, then you got to do it. I mean, you're ethically responsible to the client's needs. I hear you.
But sometimes the client's going to say, sometimes just knowing that is going to make the defendant
Yeah,
corporation pay more money.
yeah. I think that's sort of the struggle with my coach is that the way I view money is actually helping get more money.
Yeah.
Because I don't care about it,
Money
and-
is not a dirty word. It cannot be a dirty word. So many people are so uncomfortable with it. And
Yeah.
so what I asked Mo to do was to figure out why you're uncomfortable with it, because you can't be. Not in this profession. I was. Initially, I didn't know how to ask for damages. I didn't know how to demand them. I didn't know how to rationalize or talk about them or love them. You have to love... I mean, this sounds horrible, but you have to love the concept of money justice in order to do this job. And if you're apologetic, if you're concerned or worried or self-conscious
Yeah.
about it, if you're embarrassed about talking about money, what do you think's going to happen?
Okay,
You're going to communicate that to a jury.
that's right.
Not just that, you're going to communicate it to the defense, and they're going to know.
That too.
All right, so you have a case and you have a loss of a child.
Mm-hmm.
All right, how do you ask for money for the loss of a child, and the parents are sitting there in the courtroom? How do you do that? Can you help illuminate us?
There is no loss worse than the loss of a child.
Okay.
It is not a trite saying.
Okay.
It is like a part of you has a physical part of you has just died and will never be back. And they have not lasted as long as you. They should have lived longer than you. You would have lived your life, you would have laid down your life for that child. It's unlike a spouse, even a spouse, as bad as a lifetime spouse is, there's still nothing worse than losing a child. A child that you sacrificed for, that you nourished from the beginning, that you watched from the moment that they were teeny.
Yeah.
It is excruciating, unbelievable, unbearable, and when you think about putting a price on that, it's abhorrent. You recoil, because who could ever put a dollar amount price on the life of the most precious thing to you? It will never be enough. But in our justice system, that's what the law tells you is your job to do. You have to do that. How are you going to do that? If you do not put enough value, money value on that child's life, you disrespect that parent, that family, that life is gone for nothing. You damage, you do more damage, you do as much damage sometimes as a child being gone, because you have failed to recognize what that was. And in a society that has morality and goals and aspirations and says things like love your family and family is so important, when you say that a child's loss is worth nothing, you are kind of destroying the underpinnings of our society and what it means to love unconditionally. It's that important. I'm not done. So you need to put a value on that loss. And you say, well, it's priceless. But we value things that are priceless all day long. We put values on things that there haven't been values for all day long. When you use a cryptocurrency, a little piece of a coin, can be worth $1 million? For what? What is it? It can't breathe, it can't hug you, it can't hold you, it can't love you.
You can't touch it. Cryptocurrency you can't even touch.
What is it? We pay Michael Jordan billions of dollars to put his insignia on tennis shoes. We pay Tom Cruise $120 million to star in Mission Impossible. And you say that we can't put a value on the loss of a child? We can. And then I tell them what I think it is. It's a conversation. And it's a two-way. See what I'm doing is like I'm asking you to think along with me. I'm not preaching at you. I'm trying to get you to dialogue with me about value of money and what that loss is and how precious it is. You can do that, right? Because it's not, we're not talking about this one is worth this much and this much is this was and this dollar is this and I want more dollars. That's not what we're doing. We're talking about symbolism and love and being cherished. What is that worth? It's worth a lot. So that's why the defendants don't like to deal with me when I talk about damages. Because, and it's not even hard.
No.
It's getting yourself out of the way of thinking like this is just a dollar amount. And I've seen people, like they spend a lot of time talking about liability, but when it comes to how you talk about the money, there's some little, there's a gimmick.
There is a gimmick.
There's some kind of a gimmick or there's some short explanation, dollars and cents, you mark it all up there in a line, but that's not what you do, in my opinion, to talk about damages. When I get big verdicts, it's because I did what I do here. I want to talk about it with them and have them think through how we value.
Okay,
and
what I just learned from that was that, one, the way you were talking to me, I wanted to answer inherent questions that were being posed, even though you weren't asking questions. So it was really interesting.
It's a dialogue.
Yeah, it's a dialogue, but it's a different type of dialogue. It's like a dialogue that causes you to reflect as you're listening, and the reflection causes you to question your internal, philosophies as you're hearing the person speak, and you want to almost ask a follow-up. So when you were walking through that, there was about halfway in, I wanted to say, Karen.
No, I stopped you.
And you stopped me, and I wanted to ask, and the question I wanted to ask was, I agree with you, give me a framework of how to measure that amount.
Sure.
Measure the amount of what you describe, an unfathomable loss, and I'm a little bit overwhelmed. That's what I was itching to ask.
You have to give them a framework.
Yes.
But that's how you get to it.
Now, a
lot of people skip that step. They just go right to the framework.
Yeah.
But you've got to get the jury to understand what's being asked, which is we're not asking you just to put this arbitrary amount on here that sounds good enough or right. Yeah. It's symbolic. Yeah. What did you think, Mike?
Oh, well, I think I've seen that in action, like when you were in the Ride the Ducks case, going through each individual and laying that out to the jury was very powerful at that time. And that was one of the first times that I had watched that go down. And it's very important because it's hard for most people to imagine. And most people on juries, you're going to run into a lot who don't think that verdicts should be that high of a number.
Yeah. Because
they can't understand that. And they come in with bias that they think nothing's worth that much kind of stuff. But that's why I always say wait until they're in the seat of our plaintiff. Because if they are, that attitude changes really quick. And it doesn't matter if they're, liberal or conservative, Christian or not, or, whatever their beliefs are, it can change on a dime when that happens. And it's very telling to see that in action.
What are you smiling about?
It's I've seen you close because I've tried a case with you. It's different than sitting in front of you and having you close a case to me. But that was sort of, it was revealing in that I felt really connected to you when you were talking to me, even in this hypothetical example.
Because my style is not to preach.
Yeah, you weren't preaching.
I'm not a preacher.
No.
I don't have the dynamoism of MLK. Like, I don't have that ability to be spellbinding and mesmerizing by giving, a speech. And I also don't want to. I don't want people to do things because I said it. I want people to do things because they believe it's the right thing to do.
The right thing to do.
I do. Yeah. I want them to have a process that's fair that they can go through and reach it.
Okay, so going back kind of half circle to the beginning what we were talking about, what do you think I need to do to get to a space where I can just have a conversation about money through symbolism?
Practice makes perfect.
Okay.
I think you need to talk more about money. I think you need to write about money. I think that you need to, because there's stigma. Sometimes you allow money to you've allowed money to be stigmatized in your life.
Yes,
and it symbolizes negative trauma. Yeah. I believe your coach also said that you've kind of defaulted when it comes to money.
I have. Well, I've done that professionally and I've done that personally, but I'll just be like, you take care of the money.
Someone else
can take care of it.
You don't want it. You
work.
don't want to do it. You don't want to touch it.
Yeah.
So I think you need to take control of it and stop. You've. I don't want to say you've demonized it because you haven't, but you've put it away, and you've used your credo of moral superiority.
Moral superiority. That's fair.
That's fair. To kind of diminish it.
Good criticism. That's a fair one. So
I feel like, and I'm not like even particularly savvy about money, but I've become much more. I think we all go on a journey. What I've learned about money, first of all, I need to really feel that it's part of our justice system in order to ask for it. If I didn't believe it, then I wouldn't do good.
Yeah.
You can tell I really believe it. So I needed to do that. I need to figure out like what is real to me, what is right, and so I have that thing. But the second thing is, and you've rejected this every time I've brought it up with you.
Oh boy.
And part of it is part of the episode that we canceled that we're not sharing with anyone, which was about elite plaintiff lawyer groups.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Again, I'm an older plaintiff lawyer. I've been doing this a long time. I am known for having good verdicts. I've had some bad verdicts too, but I primarily get good verdicts, and people have no idea about my settlements because I never report them, and they're high because people know I try cases. In this kind of dog-eat-dog world of litigation, the power structure is important. And we talked about being in or out of elite group.
Yeah.
For someone like me, I literally don't care. And I can say that because, A, I have a reputation, but B, I also have money. I mean, as gross as that seems, it is a measure of, it's seen as and treated as, and it was not inherited, right? I have no inherited wealth whatsoever. And I was a single parent.
Yeah.
Of 3 children who had no child support, no alimony, who worked part-time before I got divorced. So it is a leveler. So if someone thinks that they're better than me and they want to take me on, They can try on the merits, but they can't try to one-up me because they think that they can dominate me financially, which is what plaintiff lawyers do. There's a pecking order of that. I'm high up in the pecking order.
Yeah. I mean, what I can say is that
it's a reality. It's part of the power structure.
It's what I call the economic structure of plaintiff's practice is what you've just described, and the power starts at the top and trickles down.
But it's not just plaintiffs. Like Elon Musk is coming off of changing our government. Do you think that he would have had a foot in the door if he wasn't a billionaire?
No.
He would not.
Yeah.
His power comes from his wealth.
Well, yeah. I mean,
but power doesn't have to come from wealth.
It doesn't.
Always.
It doesn't.
And I also think, I have, even now, throughout my life, I have not cared about money. I cared about getting respect for what I do and doing a good job at what I do.
Yeah.
Money comes along with that, but I still don't pay attention to it. My wife takes care of all of our finances. I don't ever look at what I make or what we have. I depend on her to tell me if we're spending too much so that I slow down. But I also, and for a long time, I thought that, anything that was judged by money was something that I didn't really want to be part of. And then I became part of this firm and learned more about how money can be used to change things in a positive way, not in a, a lot of that was, like you said, money. I had demonized money. And I think that you can still have my personal belief of not being concerned about it, partially because, Mo, you came from very poor beginnings, so you can survive when you're poor.
Yeah.
So if you don't have that fear, then they don't have as much power pushing the money as an issue. And you can still know that it has power and that you're giving power to your clients by making sure that they get the best results.
I really like what you just said, because what you have reminded me of is that why I'm so fearless. And that because I don't feel that anybody has power over me. I move comfortably within spheres of power and wealth, and I never feel intimidated by those people. And I actually feel as though I have a step up on them. And
I think you do.
And I think they feel that way. And they feel intimidated by me because I've never been responsive to that kind of, that structure that you're describing. But, one of the things that the coach and I talked about is that she said, what really works for you is that you're a really morally ambitious person. And she said that, having moral ambitions is a fantastic thing. That money can help you enhance your ambitions and can really help you help in ways that you could never imagine, and that you could do better with it. But, it hasn't dissuaded me from, confronting my relationship with it. And
so let me give you some examples that are very specific to plaintiff lawyers when I talk about the power structure of the plaintiff bar, because maybe it is plaintiff related more than normal life. And I have been everything from plaintiff beginner to plaintiff senior and everything in between. You are treated differently by the defendants when you do not have an adequate support system, and or they know that they can wear you down, that you do not have the finances to withstand. You do get the bigger firms that have the pockets of money.
Yes.
You are treated differently because you can withstand the onslaught of the defense.
Yes.
You can meet it. And so they know that. They also, there's a pecking, like I said, there is a pecking order in the plaintiff bar. And I wish that was true. in the plaintiff bar, that you could do your job, do it fantastically, and be respected for that, and only measured by that. But that's not what happens in the plaintiff bar, because the more funds that you have, the more advertising you can do, for example.
Yes.
You can be on a billboard or a bus,
Yes.
and get more clients.
Yes.
You can, there's all kinds of stuff that you can do. Plaintiff bar, and I'm not saying that any other bar is different, but the plaintiff bar is a scrappy bar. We only get paid when we resolve cases. And when you're talking about big stakes litigation, which is what we do, like really bad kind of thing cases, it takes a certain amount of pocket to be able to play that game repeatedly to the extent that we do. I mean, it's no secret that in the 90s, the firm lost $1 million on tobacco litigation. $1 million in the 90s.
In the 90s, yeah.
What is that worth now?
A lot more.
A lot more, 5 to 10, probably.
That could have bankrupted
Another firm.
or the other firm could not have got it. And now what you see is there's been some leveling of that playing field, because now there are these companies that loan money on cases. We don't do that. If we have even one client, it's only because they did it before we got to them. We try to talk them out of it. That's a personal loan, but we try not to do. We don't ever do. Like when the Simon verdict was appealed, that was appealed 2 years ago. I immediately got letters from finance companies saying, "Oh, we see that your $44 million verdict is on appeal. We can provide financing in the interim." We don't ever do that.
Yeah.
So money is very heavily connected to what we do because of who we're doing it against and what we're trying to get. But having said that, I am not driven by money. That's not the core of who I am. I could have retired by now. I'm not. I like what I do. I love what I do. I'm incredibly driven by what I do. The clients would not be happy to hear me say that I'm not driven by money, because that's what they can only get is money. And I'm driven by, wanting to get them a good result, which means money. But I personally, that's never why I've done this job. There's other ways that you can make money. This is a very rigorous job.
I think we need to revisit this topic 6 months from now.
Okay, so this is part 2.
This is part 2, and then ask me where I'm at and how I'm doing, because it's a process.
Well, how do you feel about it after today?
I feel good. I mean, I feel as though it's an exciting challenge for me to enhance what I do by finding a relationship with money.
I feel like you're about 20% of the way there.
I like how you come up with these numbers.
I feel like you're not at 50%.
Okay, I'm at 20%. I'll take that. That's good enough for me.
At least it's better than 0 like the last time. I hate money. What? Wait, time out.
Wait a minute. Why did I hire you? Get out of here. Go back to the public defender's office.
Well, that's all for today.
Until next time.